The day before the wedding, my brother eloped with his ex-girlfriend, while I was drugged unconscious, forced to marry the bankrupt and disgraced Liu Ryan in his place. That night, she shattered a wine glass and destroyed my face, which resembled my brother's by about 50%. The person I wanted was never you. What do you even count for? You are not him. He doesn't deserve to replace him. In the years that followed, I carefully healed her legs, accompanied her in rebuilding her empire, and watched her rise to great success. Yet she still looked at me with disdain. Later, I was kidnapped by her competitors and endured torture worse than death. I thought she would come to rescue me. But when she finally appeared, Liu Ryan stood there with a cold face. The Liu family group supports hundreds of families. I can't abandon them just for you. Mu Chen, I'm sorry for what I did to you. If there is a next life, I will definitely make it up to you. For the first time, she looked directly at me, but only to force me into death. I gave a bitter smile and sank into the deep sea. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn to the night before I was forced into that marriage. Liu Ryan was about to marry again. This time, she finally had her long-awaited beloved. The whole city was broadcasting the news. It was a grand spectacle. A sea of romantic flowers stretched endlessly. Upon hearing this news, I lay on the ground like a wild dog, barely alive, covered in filth and blood, a wretched mess. The kidnappers didn't believe Liu Ryan could be so heartless. In a fit of rage, he chopped off my ring finger, along with the plain wedding band on it, and sent it provocatively to the wedding venue. The blooded, mangled finger terrified Mu Yuyang, who screamed repeatedly. Liu Ryan flew into a furious rage. She finally agreed to come see me. She arrived, ethereal in her floor-length fishtail dress, elegant and radiant, while I was covered in mud, bound at the edge of a cliff, dangling precariously. The kidnapper demanded a ransom of 10 million. A sharp blade pressed tightly against my throat. After all, you were once husband and wife, even if you have a new lover now. President Liu wouldn't refuse to pay this small sum, would she? Hearing this, Liu Ryan's face suddenly darkened. She lifted her gaze to look at me, her expression as cold as ice. The Liu family group is currently managing several projects. Cash flow is tight. There are hundreds of families depending on the company. I can't abandon them just to choose you. I opened my mouth, but my voice was too hoarse to speak. Tears and blood blurred my vision. I felt more and more ridiculous. I never expected Liu Ryan to actually save me. But a mere 10 million was nothing to someone worth billions. Yet she could so easily forego my life. For the first time, she truly looked at me, only to force me to my death. Mu Chen, I'm the one who wronged you. If there is a next life, I will definitely make it up to you. Liu Ryan's indifference completely enraged the kidnapper. In a fit of revenge, he viciously shoved me off the cliff. At the moment when the seawater engulfed me, suffocating, it felt as though I had returned to 7 years ago. I was the illegitimate child of the Mu family, hidden from the light. From the moment I could remember, it was endless scorn and ridicule. It was my brother, Mu Yuyang, who had an arranged marriage with Liu Ryan, the true, wealthy heir of the Mu family. Liu Ryan had long been deeply in love with Mu Yuyang, but after she had the accident that left her legs crippled, and when the Liu family went bankrupt and fell into crisis, Mu Yuyang began to resent Liu Ryan. He spent his days at home flirting with death, crying and making a scene demanding to call off the engagement. So what if the Liu family had once done us a favor? To force me to marry a bankrupt cripple? I'd rather die. And on the night before the wedding, he eloped with his ex-girlfriend, running away. To preserve the Mu family's reputation, they forced me to marry Liu Ryan in his place. Mu Chen, the Mu family has raised you all these years. It's time for you to repay us. Don't be ungrateful. You're just an illegitimate child. Being able to marry into the Liu family is a stroke of good fortune. Everyone sneered, saying I was lucky. Just a bastard. Yet you can climb your way into wealth. But they were wrong. Liu Ryan never wanted me, even though they made every excuse. Cut out the wedding ceremony, delaying and deceiving. Painted heavy makeup on my face to hide my appearance. That night, Liu Ryan still instantly recognized that I wasn't Mu Yu Yang. But in front of the crowd, she couldn't afford to lose face. So she had no choice but to grit her teeth and accept it. Well, the Mu family had already prepared their escape plan. They pushed all the blame onto me, saying I had admired Liu Ryan for a long time, jealous of Mu Yu Yang, and caused him to fall into depression and severe illness, forcing him to go abroad for treatment. The Mu family claimed they were loyal and righteous, that to fulfill their promise, they had no choice but to let me take his place in the marriage. Liu Ryan believed it without hesitation. In her rage, she smashed the wine glass to the ground. The flying shards of glass disfigured my face, which had resembled Mu Yu Yang's. The person I wanted was never you. What do you even count for? You are not him, and you don't deserve to take his place. Clutching my bleeding wound, I felt like I was trapped in an icy abyss. No matter how I explained afterward, Liu Ryan was convinced I had ruined her engagement with Mu Yu Yang. Those around us also despised me, accusing me of stealing love by force. Under the constant curses and contempt, I became so dazed that I almost believed it myself. In order to atone, I started trying to please Liu Ryan. She couldn't walk properly, so I personally cared for her and helped with her rehabilitation until she was free of the wheelchair and could stand once again. When she fell seriously ill and was in a coma, I climbed 9,000 stone steps, bowing at each one. My knees were worn raw as I begged for her safety charm. When the Liu family was short on funds, I ran everywhere to help her secure investments. I drank until I had stomach bleeding to help her rise from the ashes and achieve great success. But Liu Ryan never once showed me a kind expression. Even later, when the Liu family group began to thrive, she successfully took revenge on the competitors who had once bankrupted her. But when they were driven to desperation, they plotted a kidnapping. I fought with everything I had to protect her safety, but was unfortunately captured. They tied me up and planned to use my life to force Liu Ryan to give in, demanding a ransom of 10 million. By law, I was Liu Ryan's husband. In principle, I had saved her life. But despite all calculations, they never considered that Liu Ryan never loved me. She watched, eyes wide open, as I fell into the deep sea, leaving no remains. Liu Ryan wanted to repay me in the next life. But if I could be reborn, I never want to meet her again. My entire life had been beyond my control. I just wanted to live once for myself. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn to the night before I was forced into the marriage. Staring at my own unscarred right cheek in the mirror, my eyes instantly welled with tears. The heavens had finally opened their eyes, giving me a second chance at life. In my past life, I was bound by the Mu family and the so-called debt of raising me. I kept myself hidden, constantly retreating. As an illegitimate child, I was seen as a despicable existence that destroyed families, as if I was born to be despised by all. But I hadn't been the one to make the first mistake. Why did I have to bear all the consequences alone? What I owed the Mu family, I had repaid in full in my previous life. I would never again be entangled with Liu Ryan. This time, I would live for myself. With trembling hands, I picked up the scissors nearby. I tore apart the pure white suit I was wearing, shredding it to pieces. Taking a deep breath, I leapt off the second-floor balcony and jumped down. No one in the Mu family had anticipated that the cowardly and timid me would choose to run away from the wedding. When I stumbled out of the front door, they all froze in shock. What are you all standing there for? The groom has run away. Quick, go after him. Once they snapped out of it, everyone started rushing toward me. I ran with all the strength I had. But the footsteps behind me grew closer and closer. Suddenly, a familiar honking sound reached my ears. I struggled to lift my eyes and saw a pink Porsche driving toward me. Without thinking, I threw myself forward and crashed right into Duen Mingshu's beloved car. Who's tired of living, daring to stage a hit and run on me? Her sharp voice rang out, and the Mu family members immediately hesitated, not daring to come closer. There was a reason for that. Duen Mingshu was the treasured daughter of the Duen family. Arrogant and disdainful, reckless and headstrong. No one dared provoke someone as spoiled as Miss Duen. When she saw me, disheveled and lying in front of her car, Duen Mingshu was stunned. Mu Chen, what are you doing out here, making a scene in the middle of the night? Wait a minute, aren't you wearing a wedding suit? Isn't it Mu Yuyang who's supposed to get married tomorrow? Ignoring the pain that racked my body, I clung desperately to her wrist. Duen Mingshu, please help me. They're forcing me to marry into the Liu family in Yuyang's place. I don't want to. I'd rather die than marry her. Please save me. I screamed with all my might, my throat choked with suppressed sobs, my entire body trembling uncontrollably. Duen Mingshu's gaze fell on me. She raised an eyebrow playfully. And why should you assume that I, of all people, will help you? No, you definitely will. My eyes were bloodshot, but my gaze had never been more resolute. The Mu family members began to panic. The lead bodyguard reluctantly stepped forward. Miss Duen, our young master was foolish to offend you. He'll definitely come to apologize in person another day. What nonsense are you barking about? It was Mu Yuyang who was arranged to marry Liu Ryan. Duen Mingshu's eyes darkened. She stepped right in front of me. Well, the Mu family sees the Liu family in decline now, so they're trying to force Mu Chen to take Mu Yuyang's place? How disgraceful. Listen up, all of you. I'm making this my business now. Mu Chen is under my protection. I dare any of you to try and stop me. With Duen Mingshu standing there, none of the Mu family dared approach. They could only hesitate and scramble to contact Mu Zong and the elders. Meanwhile, Duen Mingshu shielded me as she safely escorted me into her family's adjacent house. The moment I entered, I felt the warmth envelop me. Yet I still couldn't stop trembling. I sat on the couch, my mind swirling with the unbearable memories of my past life. When I finally snapped back to reality, I found a coat draped over my shoulders. The sun must be rising in the west today. I never thought I'd see the day you would resist. Mu Chen, you're quite something after all. Duen Mingshu clicked her tongue lightly. She raised her hand and gently poked my forehead. I slowly lifted my gaze to meet hers, my heart flooded with mixed emotions. No one knew that the despised by everyone, had once been something of childhood friends with Duen Mingshu. Although the Mu family and the Duen family were neighbors, there was rarely any interaction. As a child, I was scorned, raised in the back garden of the villa, while Duen Mingshu, being mischievous and adventurous, loved to explore. Little by little, we became acquainted. She would catch butterflies, weave grass ropes, and try to cheer me up. She even brought me delicious and expensive snacks from time to time. It was the only glimmer of light in my bleak life. But as we grew older, I became increasingly aware of my disgraceful status. Afraid of bringing trouble to Duen Mingshu, I took the initiative to distance myself. Later, when I married into the Liu family, I only had one interaction with Duen Mingshu. At that time, I was especially insecure due to my disfigured face. I didn't even dare to meet her in person. All that remained was a brief phone call. On the other end of the line, her voice sounded somewhat hoarse. Does she treat you well? I held back the tears that brimmed in my eyes, forcing a smile. I'm living the high life at the Liu family, enjoying everything. I'm doing great. After a pause, Duen Mingshu also laughed. That's good. If she dares bully you, I'll stand up for you. The moment the call ended, The tears I had held back began to stream down uncontrollably. Now, reunited after all these years, I couldn't help but laugh aloud. Duanmingxu looked at me with a puzzled expression. Hey, you didn't hit your head too hard, did you? I shook my head lightly. My gaze settled on her. With a heartfelt sigh, I just think it's really nice to see you again. Duanmingxu's face instantly flushed red. Her eyes darted around nervously, avoiding mine. HMPH, now you realize how great I am. Too late. She was trying to act tough with her words, but she didn't forget to slip my favorite hot milk into my hands. That night, I had a terrible nightmare. In the dream, I inexplicably floated back to my previous life. I saw the usually cold Liu Ryan holding my lifeless body, crying bitterly. She held a grand funeral for me, publicly declaring that I was the only one who could be her husband. Well, Mu Yuyang, whom she had once cherished, became a laughingstock in everyone's eyes. After my death, Liu Ryan drifted through life in a daze. She stayed in my room, refusing to leave, clutching my jade Buddha tightly in her hand. That Buddha was the only relic my mother, who died in childbirth, had left me, and it was my most treasured possession. She held the jade Buddha, crying as if her heart was being torn apart, as though she had loved me with all her being. In the end, she got drunk and swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills, saying she wanted to join me in death. But wasn't it she who caused my death in the first place? I awoke with a shiver, finding it all absurd and laughable. The next morning, when I woke, I stepped out the door and immediately ran into Duanmingxu returning from her morning jog. Her smile was as bright as the morning sun, much more pleasant than the ever-fickle Liu Ryan. Mu Chen, she called out, grinning. What do you want for breakfast? I'll have the kitchen make it for you. Remember, I said I've got your back. She teased, grinning as she came up to me. But when she saw the jade Buddha in my hand, she froze for a moment. Isn't this what Annie left you? You've always treasured it so much that you never take it off. You saved me yesterday. I don't have anything else valuable on me. Only this, I answered honestly. I didn't save you to get something in return. Then ... taking it back, she said, playfully retreating. No way! A gift given is like water spilled, you can't take it back. You have to help me put it on, she insisted. Strangely enough, though the heating in the Mu family home wasn't that high, as soon as I helped Duanmingxu put on the jade Buddha, her ears flushed red with heat, worried that the Mu family might come back to harass me. Right after breakfast, she decided to take me abroad to relax. As we drove past the Mu family home in her Porsche, I saw Mu Yuyang, who should have eloped by now. When he caught sight of me, his eyes were filled with raging hatred. Mu Chen, you, an illegitimate child, should be kneeling to thank me for getting into the Liu family. How dare you ruin my life? You wretched thing! Just wait. I won't let you off. Mu Zong and his wife stood beside him, glaring at me with the same hatred. It's truly heaven's mistake for us to be cursed with an ungrateful, shameless creature like you. But clearly it was Mu Yuyang who had the arranged marriage with Liu Ryan, not me. I wasn't about to take the blame for this. Over there, Mu Yuyang was forcibly dragged away, cursing me all the way, wishing I would die a miserable death. But I felt nothing. In my past life, I had already died a miserable death. In this life, no one would control my fate. Hearing those nasty curses, Duanmingxu felt indignant on my behalf. She floored the gas and sped away from the Mu family home, trying, albeit awkwardly, to comfort me and tell me not to think too much. But we hadn't driven far before we encountered a wedding convoy, sitting in the back seat of the Rolls-Royce, wearing a custom-made wedding dress, was none other than Liu Ryan. How could it be her? My heart immediately began pounding in my chest. An unsettling chill crept up my spine. Why was Liu Ryan here to greet the groom? She had always been terrified of being seen after her legs were injured. This was completely different from my previous life. Recalling all the past events, I felt my face turn pale as a sheet. Though Dwen Mingshu didn't know the history between me and Liu Ryan, she noticed my fear. Leaning over, she tried to reassure me. Don't worry, stay in the car, don't get out. Dwen Mingshu politely pulled over to make way for the Liu family's wedding cars. Then she stepped out of the car. Congratulations, President Liu. What a joyous day. So it's Miss Dwen. Thank you, Liu Ryan replied politely. With a smile, Liu Ryan instructed her people to push her down from the car in a wheelchair. She appeared calm and composed. I remember Miss Dwen lives right next door to the Mu family. How are their preparations coming along? The auspicious hour is almost here, but I haven't been able to get in touch with them at all. Dwen Mingshu remained unfazed and calmly replied, when I left, I heard the groom was crying and refusing to go. Maybe he's just reluctant to leave home. Upon hearing this, Liu Ryan, sitting in her wheelchair, froze for a moment, her lips curling into a bitter smile. So it seems he doesn't want to come after all. But no matter, I will make it up to him. Just as their polite exchange was about to end, a cool breeze blew past, revealing the jade Buddha hanging from Dwen Mingshu's neck. The familiar pattern caught Liu Ryan's attention. Slowly, she began to speak, word by word. Miss Dwen, who gave you that jade Buddha? Hiding in the car, my heart sank. Dwen Mingshu remained calm and composed. It was given to me by the person I love. Why do you ask? But Liu Ryan wasn't convinced. There are many jade Buddhas that look similar, but this one there's a chip on it. She had seen it before. I clutched the fabric over my chest tightly. Cold sweat broke out all over me. It felt as if a hand was squeezing my throat. I was in such agony that I couldn't speak. My mind filled with the pain and humiliation of my past life. Liu Ryan, who had just moments ago been smiling and polite, suddenly darkened her expression. She icily commanded. The Porsche was immediately surrounded by the wedding convoy. You're lying. That jade Buddha is clearly my fiance's personal item. Someone search the car. Seeing the Liu family's people ready to act, Dwen Mingshu sneered. I'd like to see who dares. Her delicate face turned cold as ice. President Liu, are you trying to trample on the Dwen family's honor? The Liu family is on the verge of bankruptcy now. I wouldn't mind adding insult to injury. Dwen Mingshu's thinly veiled threat darkened Liu Ryan's face further. Those around them, upon hearing the exchange, also hesitated, unwilling to act rashly. After all, everyone had heard rumors about how spoiled and reckless Miss Dwen could be. Despite her calm demeanor and smiling face, you wouldn't know how you were taken down until it was too late. But Liu Ryan wasn't willing to give up just yet. She pushed her wheelchair forward till she could see the empty passenger seat of the Porsche. Her expression faltered slightly. A mix of disappointment and subtle relief crossed her face. Surprisingly, she murmured an apology. Marriage is, after all, a significant life event, so perhaps I got overly concerned. If I've offended you, Miss Dwen, why not come and have a drink at the reception tonight? I'll make sure to apologize properly. No need. Dwen Mingshu's face remained cold, her lips curling into a slight sneer. I don't care for your wedding. Liu Ryan's assistant, noticing the tension, quietly reminded her, Miss Liu, if we delay any longer, we'll miss the auspicious hour. Missing the auspicious hour could affect the happiness of the marriage. Without hesitation, Liu Ryan ordered the convoy to continue. As the Rolls-Royce adorned with red ribbons drove out of sight, Dwen Mingshu finally turned her gaze away. She quickly moved to the back of the car and opened the trunk. Phew, I squinted, blinking at the sudden light, gasping for air. Mu Chen, are you okay? Do you want me to take you to the hospital for a checkup? Meeting Dwen Mingshu's concerned gaze, I shook my head, grateful that I had thought of this plan at the last second. In my previous life, during the countless torturous days and nights at the Liu family, when I was on the verge of collapse, it was the faint remnants of good memories that got me through. Most of all were the playful moments between me and Dwen Mingshu. On her 18th birthday, The Duen family had given her the pink Porsche she loved so much. The moment she got it, she eagerly chose to modify it. She would always chat endlessly in my ear about her design ideas. The fully reclinable passenger seat, the small mechanism that connected the back seat to the trunk. Over time, those details left a lasting impression in my mind. Before Liu Ryan could find me, I had quickly hidden myself away. My body trembled, and my eyes filled with tears. In this life, I had finally cut all ties with those who didn't matter. Seeing my emotional turmoil, Duen Mingshu sensed something was wrong. But ever considerate, she didn't ask further. Instead, she crouched down, wrapping me in a warm embrace, her hand gently brushing through my hair. Oh my! Who's this poor little thing that's been bullied? As long as I'm around, I won't let you shed another tear. Pinky promise. It's a deal. Duen Mingshu quickly noticed the chaos in my emotions and immediately decided to take me abroad. London, Paris, Iceland, the Maldives. For over half a month, we spent our time traveling nonstop. If you're unhappy, just go travel. And if traveling doesn't make you happy, it means you haven't traveled enough places yet. Under the wild logic of a certain Miss Duen, I successfully left the Mu family and Liu Ryan behind. I didn't even have time to think about the painful memories of my past life. In the blink of an eye, it was all about whirlwind trips, with barely any time to catch my breath, before we were off to the next beautiful destination. By the end of it, despite all the indulgent food along the way, I had somehow lost 5 pounds. Even my muscles had tightened up a bit. So how about it? With me around, isn't life much better? Duen Mingshu grinned as she clung to me, excitedly talking about how she would teach me to dive and see coral reefs. But before she could finish, her older brother, Duen Chang, tackled her onto the beach. Get out of here, get out. I've never seen someone so careless. Can't you see Mu Chen's dark circles? He needs proper rest. Duen Chang scolded Duen Mingshu relentlessly. The latter pouted, making exaggerated faces at me, only to be caught red-handed by a backward glance from Duen Chang. And thus, Duen Chang, you violent brute, you dare hit this young lady's face. I'm going to fight you. I was wrong, I was wrong, I was wrong. Brother, I was wrong. Don't hit me. Ah. The familiar sound of screams echoed across the beach once again. As I lay in the lounge chair, I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Though Duen Mingshu was known to outsiders as the spoiled and willful young lady. And indeed, the Duen family doted on her as the youngest daughter born late in their lives. She had 3 older brothers, each of them a domineering presence. As she put it, she was actually the bullied little pitiful one. Mu Chen, my brothers are so mean to me. But you're the best. Can you be my best friend forever? That was what she tearfully said to me when she was 6, after accidentally wandering into the Mu family's backyard. Later, I found out that she had been too mischievous and had been punished by her 3 brothers, who teamed up to teach her a lesson. Mu Chen, the seafood here is amazing. Come and try it. I lifted my head and saw Duen Chang carrying a plate of peeled crayfish, setting it down in front of me. Not far away, Duen Mingshu, still sulking after being harshly lectured, she sat at the table, grumbling as she peeled yet another round of crayfish. Seeing me hesitate, Duen Chang laughed. She's usually so lazy. This is the perfect chance to make her work. Eat more. It's rare to see her put effort into anything. Seeing this, I nodded. All right. Thank you, brother Duen Chang. Duen Chang shook his head, smiling. Enjoy. The one who should be saying thanks is actually me. If it weren't for you being there, how could I have ever tasted the crayfish that silly girl cooked herself? He chuckled softly. There was a hint of something deeper in his gaze as he looked at me. I didn't understand. I blinked blankly. Zhengduan's sister. The Chengduan in front of me froze for a couple of seconds before, suddenly covering her mouth and laughing out loud. Turns out my silly little sister ... TSK. You young folks really are something. What do you mean? I blinked again, even more confused. But Chengduan waved it off and changed the topic. I'll let you in on an embarrassing story about that girl, Mingmai. Back in high school, after you distanced yourself from Mingshu, she was heartbroken, hiding under the covers, wiping her tears ... Her eyes, yet she still stubbornly denied it. Isn't that quite funny? Upon hearing this, a wave of guilt washed over me. I was about to apologize, but Chengduan stopped me. Zichen, the reason I'm telling you this now ... isn't to... I understand your difficulties and the helplessness you felt because of the rumors outside ... You were to affect Mingshu. You distanced yourself from her to protect her. Chengduan looked at me intently. Her tone was very serious. Let's not talk about the troubles of the Mu family and the grudges of the previous generation ... You were too. Those tangled wrongs shouldn't be counted against you. Mingmai said, you're a remarkable person. You learn things so quickly. There's no need for you to feel inferior. The things that used to trouble you, in 10 or 20 years when you look back, they won't seem like much at all. Chengduan's cool, gentle voice lingered in my ears, gradually turning into a warmth that settled in my chest. My hands trembled slightly as my gaze fell on Mingshu, still struggling with the crayfish. With a slight itch in my throat, I asked ... Brother Duan Cheng, she specifically asked you to come and encourage me? It had to be Mingmai. She was the only one who cared about me ... The only one who knew that what troubled me was a knot in my heart, and went out of her way to ask her brother to guide me. Miss Duan, who seemed so proud and untouchable, actually had a softer heart than anyone else. Oh ... You two have a deep understanding of each other. I mean that as friends, of course. Chengduan's face held a strange smile that I couldn't quite grasp ... It was almost flamboyant. You're the first male friend that Mingshu has ever introduced to us. A male friend. She values you a lot. And I hope that between you two ... things can long time. As he said these words, he clicked his tongue softly, trying to win my slow-witted sister's favor. Give yourself more chances, opportunities. I still couldn't fully catch the implications in his words. But I did understand one thing clearly. Mingmai had been very kind to me. Someone was kind to me, and I had to repay that kindness. So when Mingmai mentioned she'd set up a new studio and was short of hands, I agreed without hesitation. After all, in my previous life, I worked at the Liu Corporation for so many years. I was already quite familiar with the related project processes, but then I regretted it. I never should have let those memories from my past life pop into my mind. Good thoughts fail, bad ones come true. As soon as I got off the plane ... I was blocked at the airport by Liu Ryan. Mingmai had been surfing too enthusiastically in the Maldives. Even before she got off the plane, she was showing signs of catching a cold. Her nose was so red, she could have passed as Santa Claus. I was worried her health wouldn't hold up. So I told her to rest in the parking lot first. I went alone to retrieve our luggage. But before I could take to steps with the suitcase, Liu Ryan appeared out of nowhere, blocking my path completely. We hadn't seen each other for a long time, and she looked much thinner, sitting in her wheelchair. Her cheeks had sunken in deeply on both sides of her cheekbones, making her seem even gloomier. Mu Chen ... I finally... Her hoarse voice carried a disturbing tone of obsessive resentment. My heart skipped a beat. I tried hard to suppress the trembling in my voice. Sister-in-law ... Hello, sister-in-law. In this new life, Liu Ryan had finally managed to marry Mu Yuyang. Now, she and I were just distant relatives. How wonderful! Just as I was about to push my luggage and walk around her, She moved her wheelchair again, blocking my path once more. Mu Chen, stop pretending. I know you've been reborn. Just those two short sentences drained every bit of color from my face. My nails dug deep into my palms, barely allowing me to hold onto a sliver of sanity. So it was true. Liu Ryan had also been reborn. Of course, I should have seen it coming. Otherwise, she never would have appeared in the wedding procession back then. Liu Ryan, why are you doing this? Facing her intense gaze, I was completely calm. Not a single ripple of emotion stirred inside me. In this new life, you finally got the Mu Yuyang you had longed for. You achieved everything you wished for. So why are you still here, disturbing my life? Can't we just go our separate ways? Bridges as bridges, roads as roads. Isn't for us both? Heaven had given me a second chance after all. I really, truly, do not want to have any more entanglements with them. No, it's not like that. Mu Chen, let me explain, she said, her expression changing. Suddenly, she clutched my hand tightly. You've misunderstood. I never liked Mu Yuyang. The only reason I announced the so-called wedding in my previous life was to take revenge on him. Revenge for betraying my feelings and the humiliation he caused me when he fled the marriage. From start to finish ... The one has always been you. Liu Ryan defended herself urgently ... She said long since seen through it all. Mu Yuyang's disdain for her had only been her bitterness over misplaced affection. So she planned to humiliate him at the wedding, to exact revenge. But for me, she realized it all too late. Her deep love, Mu Chen, believe me, the one I've loved ... has only you. I was just so foolish. After the Liu family went bankrupt, and after I lost the use of my legs, the people around me seemed to pity and sympathize with me ... But behind me, they were laughing at me ... I couldn't trust anyone, and I didn't want to believe that you were truly, wholeheartedly good to me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. I regret it. I really, really regret it. Heaven allowed us both to be reborn, to give me a chance to make amends. Mu Chen, I beg you, let's start over. Can we? With red-rimmed eyes, Liu Ryan gazed at me deeply. The reason I showed up in the wedding procession that day ... was because a person getting married ... was you. As long as you agreed ... A diamond as a dove's egg ... A wedding dress worth millions ... The most grand ceremony in the entire city ... I can all. Please be with me, will you? Seeing Liu Ryan holding out that diamond ring with such sincerity, I laughed. I laughed until down my face. For my past self's unworthy choices, and for Liu Ryan's shameless behavior in this life. Liu Ryan, do you need me to help you remember ... Why I... It's because you killed me. You offended someone in business ... And I one who suffered for it. I went through hell because of you. Fine. Even if you didn't love me back then, I was still a living, breathing person. I was whipped ... beaten until my body was bruised, tortured so severely that there wasn't an inch of unmod skin left, and finally, my ring finger was cut off in disgrace. Can you bear the pain I endured? You can't. Not only were you incapable of that ... you even coldly forced me to my death. Ha ha ha. It's truly absurd. The very executioner who humiliated me in every way has the nerve to speak of love. Liu Ryan, when you say those words, doesn't your heart ache at all? Oh, I forgot. You're a heartless, cold-blooded creature. I find it both laughable and pathetic. What kind of love ... is only realized after death? Why should it be my death that awakens such cheap and hollow devotion? I died. You killed me. What good does that do now? Belated affection is cheaper than dirt. After laughing enough, I wiped the tears from my face with a cold warning. Liu Ryan, you'd better stay far, far away from me. I will not let you go. No one understands the fragile state of the Liu Corporation better than I do now. Even if you can't see it ... Back then, my teeth and fought to protect it. And now, I could tear down that worthless company with a flick of my hand. But Liu Ryan, for some reason, had a misplaced confidence. No! Mu Chen ... I know you wouldn't. She seemed lost in her own world of emotions, obsessed to the point of being frightening. You don't have to worry. When we go back, I'll arrange our wedding. Once this mistake is corrected ... We'll live happily together for the rest of our lives. The way she mumbled to herself made my skin crawl. She had gone mad. Liu Ryan had definitely gone mad. I needed to get out of here fast. But as soon as the thought crossed my mind, Liu Ryan seemed to sense it. She maneuvered her wheelchair ... effortlessly trapping me in a corner. Mu Chen ... You can't. People are stationed outside. In this life, just be my obedient husband. The moment she finished speaking, a shadow leapt out from the side and slapped her hard across the face. Even in a wheelchair, you still can't behave, huh? And you're tarnishing the reputation of the disabled community while you're at it. Missy here is going to teach you a lesson. Before I even had time to react, Mingshu was raining down punches, knocking Liu Ryan out of her wheelchair and onto the floor. So it turns out you've been bullying Mu Chen all this time, right under my nose. Oh ... Now that's gone, you suddenly remember to act all regretful, and you still dare claim you love him? Get lost, and the farther the better. Mu Chen is under my protection now. Don't you dare lay a finger on him. Mingshu's relentless punches left Liu Ryan bruised and speechless. It was only then that I finally snapped back to reality. Between each hit, alright, stop it. You'll really kill her at this rate. Mingshu's face scrunched up in displeasure. She looked at me. You're scolding me ... for her? It was laced with wounded indignation. I'm just trying to keep you out of unnecessary trouble. Someone like that ... isn't worth it. I definitely soothed Miss Dwayne's ruffled feathers. Besides, you're still running a fever. Your health comes first. HMPH. Dwen Mingmei awkwardly turned her head. Yet her mood instantly improved quite a bit. Meanwhile, Liu Ryan, lying on the ground, caught sight of this scene. Her face turned deathly pale in an instant, but I couldn't be bothered to pay her any more attention. I grabbed Dwen Mingmei and left. All the way, she kept chattering nonstop. Luckily, I saw you weren't coming for a while, so I rushed over. Otherwise, you definitely would have been bullied. Liu Ryan, that. She just thinks she's superior because she has more people, right? Well, I had already hired an entire team of bodyguards. Those oddballs of hers, they weren't even worth noticing. Dwen Mingmei, who appeared carefree, had sensed the tension between me and Liu Ryan early on. Before boarding the plane, she had already arranged for people to be stationed at the airport to protect us. That's why we managed to escape smoothly. In the end, she pressed her lips together and hesitated for a moment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say those things earlier. Mujin, do you blame me? I widened my eyes. Why? I should be the one who's worried, shouldn't I? Rebirth's such a mystical and unbelievable thing. Not being treated like a freak and taken away for research. That's already a stroke of luck for me. In the last life, you had such a rough time, and I didn't even step in to help you. What kind of friend was I, if I wasn't even remotely reliable? Dwayne's face showed a deep sorrow. Her expression seemed utterly downcast. I shook my head. This wasn't your fault. Moreover, in the previous life, shortly after that phone call ended, she died. When she was abroad, she lost her life protecting others. But such unsettling news, I decided not to tell her. In front of me, Dwen Mingshu was muttering and swearing to me that in this life, she would protect me well. I couldn't help but press my lips together, smiling. She still didn't know that on the day of the runaway wedding, Dwen Mingshu had stood directly in front of me, shielding me. From that moment, I secretly made up my mind. In this life, I would protect her with all my might. Asterisk, the reborn Liu Ryan seemed to have truly gone mad. It was as if she blamed all her sins entirely on the Mu family, dragging the nearly bankrupt Liu group. She fiercely fought against the Mu family for control in the business world, relying on memories from the previous life and shortcuts. The Mu family was targeted with relentless vengeance. In less than half a year, they declared bankruptcy even before the Liu family. After returning to the country, I met the Mu family 7 times. In their desperate state, they even came to me for help, hoping to use me to connect with the Duen family's resources. In a last, desperate struggle, they even hypocritically invoked the debt of upbringing. You, an illegitimate child, were raised by the Mu family for so long, so you should repay us. Otherwise, you're ungrateful and unfilial. I responded with a smile by tossing a scalding pot of boiling water at them. They shrieked and scrambled in terror. At least in this life, I finally had the chance to uncover the truth. My mother was indeed the other woman back then, but she had been deceived. A university girl in her early 20s, young, beautiful, and inexperienced, she was swept away by the mature and steady affection of the Mu family's head, blinded by his love. By the time she learned the whole truth, she was already on the verge of giving birth. Overwhelmed with emotion, she suffered a difficult labor and massive blood loss, sacrificing her life for a sordid romance. The Mu family was far from the kind and loving image they portrayed. Mu Yuyang was born premature, weak and often ill. By coincidence, I was born 2 years later with the same blood type. I was nothing more than a blood reserve for Mu Yuyang, raised solely to provide him with what he needed. Their so-called debt of care, I had already repaid it in the last life. So in this life, it's their turn to atone. It wasn't until half a year later that I heard about the bankruptcy of the Liu group and the news that Liu Ryan had slit her wrists in a suicide attempt. Many people said that before Liu Ryan's death, she had become delirious, muttering nonstop about starting over again and again. Yes, I just have to start over, she would say. It's fine, I'll die again if I have to. A twisted kind of hope. But even if she died 1,000 times over, it would be useless. As long as I'm here, no demon or ghost will ever entangle you. When I heard this news, I didn't feel much of anything, but Duen Mingshu found it ominous. She dragged me to a temple for a proper visit. She even spent a fortune on a ritual, saying it was for the benefit of my stepfather's spirit, one offering after another. I doubt even that Jade Buddha could pay off such a debt of gratitude. I thought for a moment, then asked, "You're too good to me. Duen Mingshu, how can I repay you?" Duen Mingshu's eyes flickered. Her cheeks suddenly turned crimson. "Then I want you to like me. Muchen, will you agree?" Meeting those earnest, burning eyes, I chuckled softly, I can't promise that. First look at your performance.